Welcome back to Unplug with Mel. We have a thought-provoking episode today with the one and only Angela Shaw, the SVP of Talent at Amplify Credit Union. Angela is not only an award-winning human resources leader, but also a passionate speaker, teacher, and advocate for DEI. In this interview, Angela shares invaluable insights into leadership through an equitable lens, the delicate art of saying no, and so much more. Join us for a captivating conversation that dives into the realms of HR, leadership, and building more of an impact in your community as well as in your company. Don't miss out on the wisdom Angela brings to the table. Hit that play button and embark on an enlightening journey with Unplug with Mel with our special guest, Angela Shaw. You can hear us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Google, and more. Welcome, Angela Shaw, to Unplug with Mel. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
Hi, Mel. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk.
I'm excited to hear your story. I don't know you very well. I did briefly get to hear one of your breakout sessions through HR Southwest, and then I connected with you through LinkedIn. And so I follow your journey through LinkedIn for about a year now. And so when I decided to come up with this podcast, it just organically grew with those who were reaching in to become a guest. And you actually emailed me or messaged me. And I was like, sure, come on, girl. I would love to hear more about you. And so today we're just going to take time to tell the listeners who are watching maybe through YouTube or listening on Spotify and Apple, who is Angela Shaw? So take it away. Who are you?
Well, in my day job, I am a senior vice president of talent for Amplify Credit Union. I started my 25th year in HR last October. So it's been a long time, and I'm still passionate about what I do every day. I'm really big on volunteering. I started in my HR community, and now I'm doing more in the larger community of Central Texas where I live. I'm currently a board member for I Live Here, I Give Here, which is an organization that matches givers with nonprofits. And also in 2024, I will be serving as a board mentor of color for an organization called The New Philanthropist, which supports more people of color joining boards. I'd be remiss in mentioning I'm a zealous daughter, auntie, and friend. I believe in giving back to the community and to those that I love. So those are really the things that make up who I am.
I love it. I love that volunteerism is a big central part of the HR people that I get to meet. We're very, centered on giving back, and I think it fills our cup up very well, and
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's
So,
definitely a community, and I would think people that you meet who are volunteers, there are specific things, like, that we share, right? That love of helping others, the want to give back, what you get out of it. It's definitely something that is very specific to people who volunteer.
amen. I get yes, right on, and that'll lead us right into our first question here, with you taking us through your journey and sharing some key moments or experiences that shaped who you are today.
Yeah, so my early life was good. I was really sheltered a lot, because I had a great family bubble. And I was sheltered, I would say, until I went to middle school. And when I say sheltered, I mean I didn't know how cruel the world could be. So it's kind of great that I was able to go that long and not know. But I will say from that point on, I was very well aware that I was a Black woman, and that nothing was going to be given to me.
Mm.
So, as I have reflected over that realization and just different things that I've gone through over the years, I'm big on reflection and always taking time to reflect on things. I really became more aware of my voice, that I had a voice, and the power that I could wield with that. So I can acknowledge though that I had privilege, right? So even though I feel like as a Black woman, there are certainly barriers that I had to overcome every single day. I came from a two-parent household. I grew up in a house with a backyard. I ate meat every day. I had new clothes every year. I never had to wonder where my next meal was coming from. But even with those protections, I grew up poor. And that didn't protect me from isms like racism. It didn't protect me from patriarchy. It didn't protect me from systemic structures. These are all things that have worked overtime, I feel like, on my path to keep people from myself from having equitable outcomes. And so every time I had some negative experience that shaped me and molded me as a person as I continue to reflect on those experiences. And so instead of being negative about it or hateful, it really pushed me to work overtime to create equitable outcomes, not only for myself, but for others. And sometimes that's been at my own expense. So as I've gone through this journey, this 25 years in HR, I burned out multiple times over my career. I've been so angry that I've left organizations without a next play. I've cut off people that weren't for me, and I've struggled to meet people where they are in their journey when I feel like they don't understand mine. But I will also say about that is that I've never given up, and I've always bounced back. And so I found real purpose in my professional journey when I decided to add the intersection of DEI to myself as an HR practitioner. I really
Mhm.
wanted to have a knowledge base. I wanted to see what I could personally do to push for equitable outcomes, starting in organizations that I worked in. And I did it before it was popular. Like, before George Floyd, before all the things happened, right? I did it before it was popular. And so I think that the work that I put in building that skill set for myself, um, I've worked really hard to leave room for conversations, for questions, and for the nuance of situations with others who have not been on my journey or don't feel the same way that I feel about things. I recently read an article in Forbes by Joelle Emerson, and it really summed up how I feel about DEI and the work that I try to do to intersect that with HR. And I'll read a little quote from that magazine because I think it's integral to like how I approach it. The author says, I've learned that inclusion is a skill that can be built over time, but people need space and support to make progress on that journey. Making room for dialogue, leading with curiosity, and recognizing that values aligned people may have differences of opinion are important steps for engaging a wider audience. So, as I think back over the
Mhm.
years and how I've tried to educate myself and how I've tried to work harder to meet people where they are, having that attitude of
Mhm.
the openness, of the knowing that there can be differences of opinion and you can still coexist, that has
Mhm.
really helped me, like, get past things that could have been, like, a challenge or challenging people. Um, and that has led me to, I feel like, having a full and satisfying career, like, a life that I enjoy, and that I get to lead every day because I have the power over that path.
That's good. I mean, that quote right there also helps people that are in the roadblock or even in the midst of unconscious bias. Like they're not aware of what's stopping them, but it's fixable.
Yeah.
There's a fixable moment where you can learn, it can grow. I love getting to know that about you. In these key moments and the experiences that shaped who you are today, is there a significant setback or challenge that you faced along the way that really shaped you or really created the pivotal moment that Angela needed to change?
Yeah, I think not necessarily a specific pivot thing. I think it is just every barrier that comes up. And
Mm,
everybody has barriers, right? Mine
mhm,
just happen to be related to factors that I represent. And I think that a lot of times people let that stop them from moving forward or forging their own path or feeling powerless to change their situation. But something that's really helped me is, being very focused on the goals that I have. Like, that
mm,
focus really helps me get past any type of setback or person or thing that I think is standing in my way. Even when we talk about patriarchy or systemic structures that exist, I'm constantly working for ways around that, right? It's not going to stop me. Those things they exist. I work really hard to try to get rid of them every day, but it's also not going to stop me.
Oh, yeah. So you basically know that you're going to get through everything in one way or another. In moments of doubt or failure, or you believe, how did you stay motivated and maintain your focus? Like when you say that you're going to get through it, like it is what it is. What do you do? What are the objectives in that? What are some steps, some tools that you use?
Yeah, so I think any person would probably answer this question differently. For
Mhm.
me, it has been really being focused on my goals. I set goals every single year, and I work in harmony with meeting those goals. And so, having that as a focus, something that I can control, it really helps me in these moments of doubt or if there's a failure, because I know I'm working towards something specific. So you might fall down, but I'm going to get back up. I might have to take two steps back, but I'm going to keep moving forward, right? I might have to turn right or left, but I'm keeping on this path. And I think outside of that, listening to my heart, like just really listening to and trusting myself, I think the support of family and friends is really needed, and also professional allies. So people that I've crossed in my path who decided that they wanted to help me or support me.
Mhm.
I would say, in addition to that, helping others. So while most decisions, and goes for anybody, especially in your career, you're building your career because you have personal goals. But what I found is that I've actually been able to give a lot back to others, and that helps keep me focused too. So how can I support other people? And so ways in which I do that, whether it's publicly sharing my perspective, like being on a podcast,
Mhm.
the fact that I'm an adjunct teacher of HR, and I take that very seriously because I want to help HR people see that they have power and that they can use that in positive ways. And I think also mentoring anyone that crosses my path, like how can I help a upcoming professional get to where they want, or how can I provide a different perspective to maybe a professional who has the same amount of experience that I do, but needs another perspective or just to see things differently. These are all things I think that really help me stay motivated and
Yeah.
be focused.
Awesome. In this journey that we call life and all of the years of experience you have, there has probably been a few times that you had a inspiring or memorable victory or even a success story, if you want to call it, in your journey. Mind sharing that with your listeners today?
Yeah, there've been so many things that I never thought I'd be able to do or succeed at. I would also say getting serious about my HR career. So I've been in HR for, like I said, going on my 25th year, but I didn't really become goal oriented professionally until like 10 years in. So sometimes I feel like, oh, I wasted those first 10 years, but I'm exactly where I need to be. I would say being able to build a state and national presence that I have, that's been very memorable. A lot of steps along the way to be able to get to that. I think the fact that there are a lot of people who look like me that don't know they're capable of doing anything or having success or that they have power
Mm-hmm.
to help their success,
Come on. Mm-hmm.
but being that representation for someone, whether it's women in the community because I identify as a woman, whether it is people of color because I identify as a black person, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
someone who pivots or changes, like the ability to be representation, I take that very seriously, and that part is priceless. So every time someone reaches out to me to say how I helped them, supported them, or inspired them, that's a success story for me. I would also say serving as president of Williamson County HR and Austin Sherm, two of my local
Mm-hmm.
chapters, that really helped me with building this presence and finding myself and knowing how I could support other people. And then some specific things.
Go ahead.
I was Texas Sherm Volunteer of the Year in 2020. That was an unexpected treat. That was a year
Awesome.
that most people associate with COVID, but I associate it with the culmination of a selfless giving on behalf of the profession that I love. And so I really love that for 2020. That's always going to be the first thing that comes up for me instead of COVID, you know? I would also say that this last year has been particularly victorious for me. I won several awards, including Austin Sherm HR Exec of the Year, and I was an Austin Business Journal Woman in Power. I was
Wow.
also able to swear in the 2024 Austin Sherm board. and the president for 2024 is someone I mentored 10 years ago. So talk about a full circle
Circle.
moment. I mean, that
Mhm.
feels like success. That feels like a legacy, right?
Yep.
To be able to do that and say that. And then I started off this year with a bang. I was named a 2024 Austin Woman Magazine Changemaker.
Woo!
Um,
Go
so
girl.
for a girl from the poor side of town who never knew that this kind of success was possible, I'd say I've done pretty well, and I'm proud of all of those moments. Also, I'm entering my 50 decade this year. And
You don't
while
look it.
well, thank you. And while some days I feel really tired and a little exhausted, I'm also invigorated, just about what else I'm capable of and other ways in which I'll be able to help people.
Anything on the horizon for the next 10 years?
I don't know if I'm very good at looking out that long, especially now that I've done a lot of the professional goals that I set out to do for myself. But I'm definitely more of a yearly kind of goal setting person.
Mhm,
This year, I'm going after certification for to be a board director, like in a paid board position, which is like you take an exam to get the certification. So just studying at this age is a bit of a chore, but that's definitely something. And I mentioned earlier that I'm going to be a mentor of color for boards. So
mhm.
helping other people see that they have value. I think a lot of people
Mhm.
don't know within themselves that they have value. Like
Yeah, it's
I,
huge
I've,
out there.
I've been on a journey to get to success, right? And when I started, I didn't know. You always think you need this pedigree or you need degrees or you need these things or whatever. A lot of times it's already inside of you. And so when I
Mhm.
just think of what I want to do for the next year or even into 10 years, it's just continuing to have an impact. So my word for 2024 is impact. And I'm being very intentional about how I do that, like at work professionally, outside of work professionally, and in my personal life.
I love it. That's exactly kind of the mindset with Unplug with Mel is that by someone hearing your story is going to think back, well, she started 25 years ago and she didn't even know her value. And she worked through it her own way, her own journey, her own set of skills, and she's where she needs to be now. I need to get to it. Maybe they feel like they've wasted 10 years, but not really. It's not a waste.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was talking to a previous guest where we hear or we look at the glass. We see someone on the other side, and it could be a successful entrepreneur or a CEO of a company. And when we hear their story, we're like, they lost funding for a business deal 3 days before it needed to happen. And yet they still persevered. They still kept at it to end the deal. But we don't see that part of that story unless it's been told. We
Yeah.
see, oh, they've never had a no in their face. They've never had a setback.
Yeah.
And that's not right because life has always given someone a setback or a
E-
curveball or
Everyone. Yes.
everyone has had
Yes.
it. And
Yes.
in that season of the setbacks or victories, it grows us to
It
shape
does.
our value. And our value will continue to increase. It'll never decrease because
Yes.
of the experiences that we live.
Yeah.
And it's crucial to know that. So it leads into our next question is what advice would you give to others that are listening in who would want to tell their story or share it or even just pursue their passion? Maybe they're not in alignment with what they should be doing. What would you say to encourage them?
Yeah, so that's kind of hard to answer, but I would say to like stay the course and believe in yourself. I didn't know exactly where the end of my path would be. I'm not at the end yet, but I've always been flexible and open to wherever it led me, and I have stayed the course. So when I set a goal for that year, whether it was getting my HR certification, finishing my degree, becoming a public speaker, like whatever the goal, stay in the course. And like not only did I accomplish those things, but I learned so much along the way. So I think that's definitely something I would say. Like stay the
Stay
course
the course.
and believe in yourself. You can do
It-
it. If I can do it, I mean everybody can do it.
Well, I mean, we say these words and it can sound kind of cliche about believe in yourself, but if you can't even believe in yourself, how do you expect someone else to feed into you?
Yeah, and I would say if you don't believe in yourself yet, staying the course will help you build that belief in
Mhm.
yourself because you're going to meet your goals or you're going to meet steps on the way to that goal, right? And those are the things that encourage you and support you to stay that course because you're going to get to, you see that light at the end of the tunnel, you're going to get to that light. And that really will support you believing in yourself. Every time you meet a goal, that's more belief in yourself, that's more confidence you have, that's more you can do it, whatever it is.
Another key point in there, I think Billy Wright said it in one of her imposter syndrome breakout sessions things is listen to the others feeding into you. You
Yeah,
know, if they're telling you that you did a great job at this project or that you are meant for this role or you're doing a great job, believe in that. You may not
yeah,
believe in yourself in that. You may try to nitpick how you did in it. But that's the world's worst critic in ourselves. But believe in the team that you're surrounding yourself by. They're not going to lie to you because they want to see you succeed too. And
yes,
so it's really critical into that imposter syndrome. And if you're around people that are just going to give you yes answers, then you need to remove them and go into those that will give you good counsel and feedback in what you're trying to do. And
absolutely.
and that will help you stay the course. And then all of a sudden you look back in that year and you are believing in yourself because you did the work.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Angela, I know that in the 25 years of your success story and stuff that you have had a significant support system and guidance in your journey. Take a few minutes to talk about who they were, the mentors, the colleagues, your tribe, and what wisdom and support that they provided in your journey.
Yeah, there's almost too many to name, but I'm going to talk about some groups of people. I think every hiring manager who gave me a shot played a significant role, like in my journey.
Mm,
Regardless of the experience in that workplace or whether or not that relationship worked out, they saw something in me that was great. I believe that there's greatness in me too. So just that opportunity, right? That's how I grew my career, like in title and financially. So every hiring manager who gave me a chance, I'm gonna give them a shout out because they gave me a shot. I would also say anybody that I cross paths with in any forms of the professional work that I do. So whether it's my day job or volunteer experience, a public teacher, speaker, or as an adjunct teacher, like I've met so many great inspirational people that have given me mentoring moments. Now, I can't necessarily say I've had a mentor, like somebody I can name that I talk to on a regular basis or who has helped me guide, but I've had a million mentoring moments with all these people that I've interacted with in all of those ways.
mm,
And so that for sure has been support and helpful along the way because they fan the flames of my desire to make a difference, to be a better person, and so I have to say those moments, I remember a lot of them. Also my family, I continue to amaze them and they cheer me on, and I love that and I need that. I am my ancestors' biggest dream, and so to like live that out and to do those things, it is a feeling I almost can't describe. Also have a circle of best friends. There's
I love it.
multiple of them. There's a circle of them. They know each other. And they've been with me on this journey a lot of that 25 years, like if not all of it. So they've heard every story, every challenge, every bad workplace, every good workplace, all the experiences and things that I've gone through. And so I have to shout them out for being people who love me when times are hard and who celebrate me when times are good. And then some specific names. There are three people specifically. Wendy Chance, Bob Cartwright, and Susan Word. They're all volunteer leaders that I've interacted with in the past. And these three people were all pivotal in my volunteer leadership, in my speaking, and in my teaching past. So, being a volunteer leader, being a public speaker, being an adjunct teacher of HR, those are things they were never goals. I never thought that I could do
Mm,
those things. But these 3 people, they believed in me and they spoke my name in rooms that I was not in. And they led me to these paths to be able to do so much more than I ever thought. And I will be forever grateful to them. So a lot of times in my path, I have believed that there were so many more people who wanted to stop me than there were people who wanted to support me. But people like Wendy Chance, Bob Cartwright,
Mhm.
and Susan Word, they gave me belief in people again.
Oh,
And again, just that whole people speaking your names in rooms that you're not in. I always try to speak names of people who, when I'm in rooms that they're not in, because that's the example that they taught me. And so, all of that, this is all, on this journey of support and guidance, and people who gave me mentoring moments, and colleagues, and other volunteer leaders who just have helped me along this path, and I'm so grateful for that, and I try to give that back in spades every day in every way that I can.
I know Wendy, so I can tell on that one. Um, and so kudos to Wendy and all of it. It's a huge significant role on being in someone's tribe and building them up. And of course, for someone like Angela and for myself, we make sure that we give that back too because we know how valuable it is in our own circles. I have loved getting to know you, Angela. So we're gonna move into some fun questions. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's do it.
So in this journey, all of that busy work that you do from your job to the volunteerism, when you take a breather, when you unplug, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of rest in any kind of way. So I'm a sleep 8 hours a night person. I'm a napper. I believe in lounging. Like I'm just all any type of rest. So I say no more than I ever had before so that I can add time to rest in my schedule. Obviously as you get older, but as you just do so much, I've learned how to try to counteract some of the exhaustion. So finding that time to rest. Last year, I went to a lot of concerts and I took a week long solo trip. These were all opportunities to unplug, and they really
Mhm.
helped me. And it was probably the first year in the last 10 that I really tried to specifically say I wanted to rest and be able to do that. And it has given me more energy for this year. And so this year I plan to either travel more or make plans for what more travel looks like next year. So I'm going to continue on the road of making sure that I have time in my schedule to rest so that I can unplug and come back better than ever.
And we wouldn't think about how much of a struggle that is. But when you have a heart for volunteerism and doing your best at your job, the calendar gets pretty packed. And then you're
It
like, where
does.
do we fit us in there?
Yeah.
And from one travel bug to another, that's hard to fit in a trip here and there. But I do love when I get away and travel and see other areas besides West Texas.
And it breaks my heart to tell people no. Like when I have to
Yeah.
say no to some ask, like it breaks my heart. Also, I think professionally, when you think about all the work you do to build a brand or to be a go to person or a person to know, people reach out to you because of that. And so
Mhm.
saying no to somebody who needs something from you that you could actually give, I definitely had to learn how to do that. And it's that making more impact by doing less. And so getting to that point to be able to say no has been hard, but definitely much needed.
You're preaching to the choir in there. I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I did not understand the value of no with the right heart behind it. It's not no forever, it's no in this season, but come back to me in a couple of months. And it's very valuable at that point because it's not that we don't want to do it. It's just like now we're in this season. In this last question, and this is what kind of motivated Unplug with Mel, and it's what piece of advice that you've ever received, and it could be several pieces of advices or so and how has it influenced your career or life in general that you would like the listeners to hear today?
Yes, I think there's so much good advice, I've received. I would say that it's a message that has been reinforced a lot in me, whether it was someone else saying it or seeing it in action or me being the person to put it into action. But it is bring others along. Like
Mm,
don't be a gatekeeper. Invite it's enough for everybody. Whatever it is, there's enough of it for everybody. And so you should definitely be opening the door instead of gatekeeping. And so that thought to always bring others along. And I always just say anybody who comes up after me, they can always do it better than me. They can do more than me. And I want to support them in that. Like how they get there. So the ways in which I mentor my team, like people who report to me, the ways in which I mentor people who have crossed my path, whether it was for volunteer leadership or whatever, it's always with the idea to bring others along. And so I would say for me, that's been a huge piece of advice and something that I have just continued to make sure that I do and I bring others along.
I love that. And that it brings that visual to me that you're out there in a windowsill and you're not looking up or side to side. You're looking down and pulling them up with you to bring them along. But I like, the gatekeeper analogy with it. They're right at the door knocking. Don't block it. Let them in. And
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I'm gonna put that down in my little memento book there.
There's so many ways that people gatekeep, like in any kind of way. Like I would say, even being a volunteer, there are things that have felt like people were gatekeeping, right? Like
Hmm.
it's a volunteer thing. Nobody should turn down a volunteer ever, right? If you're not in no or you're not in the right group or whatever, people gatekeep in organizations. HR people gatekeep a lot, whether it is people knowing policies or processes or the ways in which HR advises or counsels managers so that they're being
Hmm.
equitable and even giving raises. Like that's gatekeeping. And definitely when we think about structural systems in place to leave others out, whether it is people with disabilities or veterans or whatever, like that's gatekeeping. Who's out here gatekeeping jobs? Like that's terrible. Don't do that, right?
Don't do it. I
I'm
had
not
a
gonna I'm not gonna interview you because you made a grammatic or you made a spelling, you have a spelling error on your resume. That's gatekeeping. Like, don't do it.
And that's taking it into the transactional and not being it with the transparent of the person. If you're being very transactional in what you do, you're going to miss the character of who that person is.
Yes.
I had a previous guest on our podcast, and I liked it when they did the analogy of being a bus driver in the seat, and it's like it's time for me to get out of the seat and let someone else drive it. Now I'm still on the bus, I'm still there to help and facilitate and guide them along, but I'm not in the seat no more. And you're
Yeah.
right. They're going to do it better. They're going to have different technology, different advancements. They're going to have you in their corner, not against them. You're for
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
they're going to have a different tribe that'll help them do things different or see things differently. But it's not a competition, especially in the volunteer world. I don't understand that mindset. But
Yeah.
in the corporate world, if you leave your job and you're hiring for succession planning, you should be looking in your company, who can fill your shoes. And if you haven't planned that whole time who can fill your shoes, then you were a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
You were a gatekeeper. You felt intimidated, threatened, whatever, and you gatekeeped your position, and or your company didn't have someone there, and it can happen that way too. But I know that when I leave my company, if I do, that there'll be someone that's going to come along and do it better, and I hope
Yeah.
for that. I hope, because my company needs to be left in better hands, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to go into another company and do that position better,
Yes.
and that's growth.
Yeah.
That's growth.
That is growth. You're right.
And so I love that. I'm going to really keep it in mind for 2024 about making sure I'm being intentional not to be a gatekeeper myself, because it's a tricky slope.
It
It's a very
is.
tricky slope.
And before you know it, you've judged somebody or you've made some decision about somebody that's causing you to gatekeep in whatever the situation is, for
That's when they
sure.
need to check into their own unconscious bias, because
Yes.
it's somewhere in there. What brought
Yes.
that on? I
Yes.
love the gatekeeper concept, and I'm going to keep that in mind going forth. So I appreciate you. That's the best piece of advice that I'm going to take from this podcast. That's for sure. Well, I have loved our time. I don't have anything else to ask. You whipped through these questions so well. So, is there anything else you would like to offer? Anything about what you are bringing on in 2024 for those that are listening?
Yeah, most people I feel like they would want to be expanding.
Mhm.
I'm actually making my plate smaller. I mean, I
Ooh.
I just want to have more impact. I want to do less and have more impact. So I'm being very intentional about the things that I say yes to be able to do that. But I think one thing that remains very important to me related to HR people. I know there are other people who will be watching this, and really anybody. I'm always going to look at everything through an equitable lens. I'm working to always look through an equitable lens, and I would wish that more people would do that. Right.
Mhm.
So, just the ability to exist in a world where you don't agree with everybody, and that's okay to not agree
Mhm.
with everybody and anybody else. But it matters most how that affects how you treat other people.
It
And
surely does. It surely
looking at something through a equitable lens, I think that helps to positively affect that so that you're not being judgmental or using it against them or letting your bias overtake you.
does. Mhm.
Um,
It's
that
amazing how many people do that, though, let their bias overtake them. And I do love that mindset that less is more. And I think that's where impact lies within, is that less is more. If you're
yeah,
overdoing it, you're making a very minimal impact. But if you're doing less and very involved in it, you're making a bigger impact.
yeah.
I like the equitable lens. That's good there too. You are so knowledgeable. I love it.
Oh, well, it's that 25 years, right?
I'm telling you,
But
it's in
not
there.
just well, and I believe that the more you do something, the better you get at it. I mean, I tell new HR people that all the time. It's funny because new HR people think that if they take a class or read a book or got a degree, that makes them equipped. And they're equipped, yes, to go get a job, but your real learning comes in how you apply what
Oh
you've
yeah.
learned. That is where the real learning comes in any
So
job, but
so
especially
I
HR.
passed that SHRM test this past year,
Well,
2023.
congratulations.
I got my CSP. I got my people management test just this past month or whatever it is, and I'm up for my SPHR. And I'm working on my bachelor's degree. I took the long way around to get stuff
Yeah.
done, but that's
Well,
okay.
I actually got my certification first too before I got a degree because I wanted to have some quick credibility and a
Yeah,
body of
that's
knowledge.
exactly because
Yeah.
I was in management, logistics, and customer service before COVID hit, and I landed in HR during COVID. And if you would have told me that I would have been an HR director during COVID, I would have been like, no, no, I don't think so. So I got it. That test was it was a challenge,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make me an expert. And then that's why I love this podcast in a sense, because you get to tell your story and inspire others, and it has no qualms of where your background for your degree is. It's your 25 years of overall experience, but your ending notes on don't be a gatekeeper, the equitable lens, and making sure it's okay to say no. I heard that too. I have been a yes person for a long time. And I don't think I really started saying no to people or no to my to do list or scheduling until I started to go back to school, because I had to give
Yeah.
up that time to study.
Yeah.
You can only get A's in class if you're studying, you know?
Yeah. I think there's a time for that in everybody's life, but a growth is knowing when it's
Yeah.
time to move on from yes and to start having
Start
some intentional no's. Yeah.
and then intentional gatherings when you can say yes. Like, okay, 3 times a year I can go out of town
Right.
and really enjoy it and then get back to work instead of having every weekend something
Right.
going on. It's like the impact that you're setting yourself for 2024. And I can't wait to see what it looks like at the end of this year for you. And I'll be following along on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to reach out to her, she's on LinkedIn, Angela Shaw. Any other tidbits you want to leave us with?
Nope. I think, just be good to yourself and to others.
Well, I thank you for coming on here and joining with us. This was a great time.
Oh, no.
I
Thank you so much, Mel, for giving me this time and letting me talk a little bit. I hope if at least one person sees this and feels inspired, then we did our job.
We did our job, and that's exactly what we're doing for. I loved hearing it. I'm pretty sure there's going to be several others out there today listening in. They're like, "You go, girl. You go, Angela." Well, I wish you the best, and I will get this out to everyone to listen in on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple.
Thank you.
Thank you.